Today, I'm going to show you how to make and install a custom arched door. I'm not going to make it, someone else is. I'm going to show you how to get them a template so someone else can make it and you can install it. First off, this is not a standard door by any stretch of the imagination, so you're not just going to be able to take measurements and order this thing. So there's a couple different ways you can do this. One is to get a large piece of plywood and then have someone hold it against here, and then you stand outside and trace the arch like this. But that's very difficult because they have this stop here and you also have this rough area here, so it's not going to be very accurate. So this is one of the few cases where I recommend taking the door off and tracing it. And I can only do this because one side is flat. This door hardware is going to have to come off. I'll have to pop it off the hinges. Now before I take it off, I want to see how well it fits. It's pretty tight here. It's kind of loose here, but that's because this hinge is loose. So what I'm doing, if that thing were working properly, this end would be up. So that's how it will fit when that hinge is installed correctly. See, we've got a nice fit. It's not going to be perfect, but we can sand this thing. See right there, it's a little close. Here, it's fine. Right there at the lock, it's fine. But then right down here, it's got like a 3/8 inch gap. So I want that to be a 1/4 inch longer. So I'm going to make a mark. I know from here, I want it to be a 1/4 inch, and I want it to go to 0, like right here at this line. So I lay down on the template, I know from this line down to this corner, it has to go out a 1/4 inch. Other than that, we're okay, and the height is fine. On top of this 3/4 inch MDF, and the MDF will be very easy to sand and shape. And I've got the hinge side lined up flush with my edge. I had to loosen those hinges a little bit to do that. And I've got the bottom of the door lined up here. So what I'm gonna do first is clamp this thing in place so it doesn't move. There's my extra 1/4 inch that I want, and that has to meet right here. So what I'm gonna do is just start tracing around the door right there. Remember, you're not gonna get this perfect with an arch door. Instead of planing it, you'll use a belt sander to help shape it. It's better to go too big than too small, but do the best job you can. So I just put my straight edge on that 1/4 inch mark and join it right there at that line. And I made a line. So now I know I'm gonna cut right on here. I just did the first cuts with the circular saw. Cut this one straight up. You see I left a little bit of the black line. And then I just made a series of angled cuts to take off the big chunks. And now I'll be able to cut this curve close with my jigsaw, and then I can do the sanding. I just did that cut with the jigsaw, pretty easy, pretty close too. I'm gonna take the old door, put it back on, clamp it into place. I'm just using a 80 grit on here, and that's fine. You could go with a 60, do it a little faster. But basically, I'm just working the sander back and forth till it starts to hit the door. But you can see it's very easy to match this perfectly. And that's another reason why I like to use the MDF. That's a perfect duplicate of that door. And right down here, you see it's a little bit wider. And if that's too wide, we can always shave that a little bit, but that should be fine. So we can put this door back on and then take our template to the door supplier and get the door ordered. And there it is. And this is the outside face. That way it gets oriented correctly because they may be doing a different pattern on the outside than they are on the inside. I just dropped off the template at Taylor Brothers. over 2 inches thick. That is heavy. We're gonna remove the old door and we're gonna set this in the doorway and shim it into place and then see if we have to cut or shape anything. We have the right dimensions, top to bottom. So we're gonna set it in place. There isn't any accurate way to measure hinge locations on an arched door. So it's best to simply wedge it in place and then physically mark the areas where the hinges are going to go. Then once we install the new hinges, we mortise the hinge locations on the door and we go a little bit bigger than we think we're going to need because these aren't going to be perfect. And that allows us to screw them in very easily. And with the hinges attached securely, we give it a test. See how it goes. This gap is perfect. Go ahead and open. And when everything is set, we got our locks in. Look at that. Beautiful arched door, perfectly installed. We move this hinge up. We want to go right in the middle because it's a very heavy door. When you have real heavy doors, especially with an arch, you want to get a bunch of support up here. That's the most critical part of the door because look how much door they have where we can't get a hinge. So by moving this one up, we get extra strength up here. Fits perfect, works perfectly, and that thing gets stained up. It's gonna look awesome.